Hello and welcome to the 9th video in the series here, and it's exciting because we're getting very close to the end here, but stuff we've got to grind through here. We're on this slide we actually finished in the last video, finding the reciprocals of numbers, and basically saw you really basically flip the number upside down, but the real definition means it multiplies to get the number 1. Okay. So that takes us to this slide, which is page 28 in your notes. And to divide fractions, what we want to do is multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, so that sounds a little strange. Now, the reciprocal, again, the reciprocal is that number when we flipped it, right? Like 3/4. The reciprocal of 3/4 is 4/3, like we learned in the previous slides. Okay, so and we found out that we learned that that's the reciprocal because when you multiply, you end up with the answer of 1. Like you'd have 12/12, which equals 1, and we learned that you can cancel out all those factors and get 1. Okay, really important for us, especially if you're going into algebra classes. Okay, so the definition of division is that instead, when you multiply, or I'm sorry, when you divide fractions like this, what you want to do is you want to change it to multiplication and multiply the reciprocal. Here's a thing that we say to remember. We say keep, change, change. Okay? Keep, change, change. We're going to keep this first number the same. 5/6 stays 5/6. What we do is we take this right here and we change that from division to multiplication. Okay? And then 2/3, we take the reciprocal of that. Reciprocal of the number that follows the division sign, you take its reciprocal, 3/2. Okay, so keep the first number, change this to multiply, change this to its reciprocal. Now you actually will end up with the same thing. We can't do division. We can't do 5 divide 2 and then 6 divide 3. It doesn't work out that way. Okay, what we have to do is we have to do 5/6 in this case times 3/2. All right, so what we're going to do here is use the rules we learned for multiplication. Okay, see this 3, see this 6. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. We just reduce that like we learned previously with multiplication. We can do that. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. So that answer, 5/6 divided by 2/3, comes out to be 5/4. Okay, that's how you do division. You have to do it that way. You can't just divide across. It doesn't work out that way. Let's look at another one. Okay, remember, keep, change, change. Keep this number, 7/8. Change this to multiply. Remember, dot means multiply. Change this to its reciprocal, 16/1. Okay, you now have a multiplication problem. Look for common factors. Okay, 8 divided by 8 is 1 because 16 divides by 8, which gives me 2. So you now have 7 times 2. It's your top number, 14. 1 times 1 is 1. Because remember, when we multiply, you just multiply straight across. 14/1 or 14. Okay, that's how you do division without a calculator. Fortunately, after chapter 3, you'll be able to do all this on your calculator. I'll show you how to do that in class. Okay, but you also need to understand how to do it without a calculator, and it's actually kind of more important for you than you probably think at the moment, but it is. Okay, well, let's move along then and see a way that we use this as we start to look at some algebra problems like a times x equals b. Now, when you see something like this, that just means a is some number, x is going to probably be that variable unknown x, b is probably going to be some number. Here's an example. 4/3 times x is equal to 6/7. Okay, so recall from earlier that the goal was to always get 1x equals something. Okay, so my goal is to turn this into 1x equals something. Now we talked a little bit about solving earlier. That's always the game. How can I get 1x all by itself on one side of this equal sign? Okay, also recall how we talked about keeping that equal sign in a straight line. Do to one side as we do to the other. Okay, I have 4/3 times x. I want to turn that 4/3 into 1. Now, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to go back a slide and forward a slide just so I can clear my screen and you can see what we're doing here. I want to turn that into 1x. I'll put that back. I'll put that equal sign there. So if I multiply by the reciprocal, remember what the reciprocal does? It multiplies and equals 1. If I take the reciprocal of this, 4/3, which is 3/4. Do you recall that when you multiply the reciprocal, the answer is always 1? I think we had a slide way back earlier that was something like this. 5/8 times something equals 1, and we figured out that was 8/5. Okay, the goal is to get 1x. That's your goal. So if I multiply 3/4 times 4/3, okay, look at these cancel out. You would have 12/12, right? 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. Or you can think of it as the 3 and 3 cancel to 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Basically, you have 1 times 1. 1 times 1. All this becomes the number 1. X is still x. Okay, so I multiplied the left side by 3/4, so I have to multiply the right side by the same thing. Remember, do unto one side as you do unto the other. So we did multiply that by 3/4. We have to multiply that by 3/4. We have to keep this equal sign balanced on both sides. Now, this is an interesting one. Do you see a common factor here between 6 times 7 and 3 times 4? And there is one. It's 2 right here. You can go 6 divided by 2 and 4 divided by 2. It's going to make our math a little bit easier here. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we end up with 3 times 3. That's my new top number. Remember, multiplying numerator times numerator is 9. 7 times 2 is 14. It's 9/14. That is my answer. And that's correct. Now here's the beautiful thing about this. You can check your answer whenever you solve. We got 9/14. If I take 9/14 and put it back into this problem, 4/3 times 9/14, watch what happens here. I'm just going to multiply. I'm going to check to see if that actually equals 6/7, which was my solution, or 4/3 x equals 6/7. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 4 and 14, that can divide out. 4 divided by 4 divided by 2 is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. If I multiply 2 times 3, I get 6. 1 times 7, I get 7, which was what this said up here. That 4/3 times x is 7. I know that's a lot of writing on the screen there for you. So, recap for you. I'm going to recap this, clear my screen, and show you one more time. What we did is we multiplied it by 3/4 because it's the reciprocal. That gave me 1x. So I did the same thing over here. Okay, I realized that 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. But 3 times 3 is 9. 7 times 2 is 14. I checked it for you. We saw that it is true. So the answer to the question is 9/14. Okay. Let me go ahead and finish up this last slide, and then we'll have a real short one at the end, hopefully. But since we just did one like this, remember the rule is multiply the reciprocal of this. 4/5 times some number k is equal to 80. So all I'm trying to do is get 1k on this side. I'm trying to keep my equal sign and keep everything in a straight line. So we learned if we multiply times 5/4 here, this all multiplies to 1. It's 5 and 5 cancel out. 4 and 4 cancel out. That all multiplies to 1 times k equal to, now you have to do to one side as you do to the other. So I have to multiply this side times 5/4. And also remember that's 80/1. Okay, 80 times 5/1/4. Well, there's a common factor of 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 80 divided by 4 is 20. So I have 20 times 5. 20 times 5 is 100. 1 times 1 is 1. 100/1 is 100. 1k is equal to 100. And that is the answer up there. Again, I know it's got a little confusing on the last slide because my screen got so messy. But I really encourage you to check your answers when you do these, when you solve. If this is right, 4/5 times k, which is 100, should equal 80. Okay, I'll do that up here at the top. Just to show you 4/5 times 100. Watch what happens here. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 100. How many times does 5 go into 100? It goes in 20 times. 4 times 20 equals 80, which was what we had here. So I just checked my answer. I'm happy because I just proved it. Okay. Answer is this, is 100. This up here is my check, but this is what really matters, is that you can get that by multiplying the reciprocal when you have fractions going there. So that's hopefully the hardest part of that. We've got a couple application questions coming up here that are a little tricky, but all of this stuff is going to come together for you there. So take a break, drain your brain, and then come back when you want to finish up chapter 2. Keep working hard.